When we look at policy or procedure, there's implied terms of trust and confidence and a legitimate expectation. SPSO and Aberdeen City Council are in breach of that legitimate expectation, and they are in breach of the implied terms of trust and confidence. Albeit, procedure is not contract law. It is not enforceable like a contract. Under the terms, procedure and policy have an expectation for it to be upheld and enforced with ethical standards. The legality of procedure and policy. Public bodies to act within the law only exercise powers that are legally granted to them. If a decision is made without legal authority or beyond their power, it can be challenged in court. Example, if a local council enforces a policy that is not based on law or a regulation, their decision could be struck down as unlawful. Procedural fairness, natural justice. Public bodies must follow fair procedure in making decisions that affect individuals. This includes right to a fair hearing, must be allowed to present your case, rule against bias, decision makers must be impartial, proper consultation, public bodies must engage with affected individuals before making a decision. Example, if a council refuses to escalate your complaint to stage 2 without explanation, may be breaching fairness principles. As I said before, I put in my original complaint to stage 2 on the 7th of last year, and this is now the 2nd of the 2nd month of 2025. Originally gave up because I was getting absolutely nowhere and tempted to get a lawyer, but unfortunately, like I've said quite a few times, is when I had to get a lawyer for a civil dispute, said, you know, they would not help if it was not family law, especially when it comes to legal aid. And I don't have $5 spare just for one day and then speak to my lawyer and then, you know, for an hour, and that cost me like $100 to $200. Then I restarted the claim and I've outright refused to put my claim to stage 2, but I had about between 5 and 10 emails where I requested them to go to stage 2 with my complaint, gave them a specification on what complaint I wanted on stage 2, and I wanted a time frame as well. And each time they kept asking for more information. This information they already had, as they were giving this information to local councillors, MSPs and MPs. And I know this because it's the information they were given to the local councillors and MPs. And I know this because the local councillors and MPs sent a consent form on my behalf to the city council. There's no way the city council can justify the delay. Delay was intentional, disregarding the implied terms of trust and confidence, disregarding the legitimate expectation, disregarding a contractual term by conduct. They were asking for information to take my complaint to stage 2 that they already had. So it's just a way to waste time, potentially try to get me to give up. It's tiresome trying to do this thing over and over again. And they continue to breach policy. And SPSO are just as complicit. They too breach of that implied terms of trust and confidence. They too are in breach of that contractual term by conduct. They too are in breach of that legitimate expectation. It is no wonder I originally gave up the claim to attempt to go through lawyers. It is our legal right to have legal representation. It is also a goddamn human right. Also our God-given right. Yet while the lawyers are technically a private enterprise, therefore they treat it as a business. If it is not beneficial to them financially, they are not interested. Regardless of the legal right, regardless of the implied terms and trust and confidence, regardless of the contractual term by conduct, regardless of the legitimate expectation, regardless it's stated in law that all men are equal, we do not stand here as freemen. We kneel as the oppressed. As I said before, no being is so important they can usurp the rights of another. It's an age-old cry of the oppressor to enforce policy while at the same time disregarding equality, justice and rights. See it in governments that pass laws to control, not protect. See it in councils that enforce policies without accountability. See it in the police who serve the people, yet too often choose to shield institutions rather than uphold justice. Speak today not just for myself, but for everyone who has suffered under a system that wields power selectively. Laws are applied not equally but conveniently, depending on who stands to benefit. Public servant violates the law, they should be held to the same standard as any citizen. Complaints procedures are ignored. It is not just one person being silenced. It is a direct attack on justice itself. When the police enforce the law unfairly, backing corporate interests over individual rights, they betray the very oath they swore to uphold. This is not governance. This is not justice. This is oppression disguised as order. History tells us those who resist oppression have always been called the troublemakers, the agitators, the disruptors. Truth is, we are simply demanding rights we were promised. Same rights they claim to uphold, but consistently deny. Today I refuse to be silent. I will expose the hypocrisy, the corruption, and the failures of those who think they are beyond accountability. The evidence will be made public, the truth will be heard. By the SPSO's actions, and by the Aberdeen City Council's actions. Now to relax. back to the matter at hand. Public's body's decision must be reasonable and rational. If a decision is so unreasonable that no reasonable authority would have made it, can be overturned. This is known as Wensbury reasonableness. Unreasonableness. Example, if the police refuse to investigate an assault on you but regularly assist TV licensed officers, you could argue that the decision is irrational and inconsistent, which is true. I was assaulted in my own home by a city council worker, yet the police said it was a complete civil matter. That is a big complicated issue in itself, and we'll cover that in another video. On one hand, the police officer is right, but without gathering the information, is not able to determine if the, let's say, assault was caused within that city council member's remit as such. We'll definitely get more into that in further detail in another video, because that is a way more complicated issue. So simply put, the police officer, not taking all the information in, could not make an impartial decision and automatically assumed that the city council member had the full authority to cause assault, breach Human Rights Act, to fill his duties as such. This would be a Wensbury unreasonableness. Proportionality. Public's authority. Actions must be proportionate to the issue they are addressing. This principle is strongly linked to human rights laws. Example, if the police use excessive force against you for a minor issue, their actions may be disproportionate and challengeable. Me questioning, for one, the assault caused by the city council worker, the breach of the Human Rights Act by reading my private document, not proportional to me questioning him if he is who he actually says he was. Legitimate expectation. Public body has consistently acted in a certain way or made promises. Individuals may have legitimate expectation that the same standard will continue if the expectation is unfairly denied. The decision can be challenged. Example, if complaint process states it must be taken to stage 2 before escalating to the Scottish Public Service Ombudsman, SPSO, but the council refused, you may argue that they violate legitimate expectation, which it has done. Because for several times I asked them to escalate my stage 1 to stage 2. They never outrightly refused, but they took in action. For several emails I asked for timelines on, when they would actually take my stage 1 to stage 2. I requested them for specific ones to be taken from stage 1 to stage 2. Each time they responded, they never escalated the actual stage 1s to stage 2. This is a violation of the legitimate expectations. SPSO, on the same hand, have done the exact same thing. Violation of the legitimate expectation. They are in breach of the implied terms of trust and confidence. SPSO know the city council are in breach of all of these, yet they refused to take action. And when I questioned the SPSO about this, and when I talked to him the other day, I did not swear to the, don't even think I swore on the phone call either. I asked the simple question of why could SPSO not get involved when Aberdeen City Council was in breach of the complaints handling procedure. They know Aberdeen City Council are in breach of that implied terms of trust and confidence, and Aberdeen City Council are in breach of the legitimate expectation. By me questioning it, they are saying I'm being abusive. They have concerns for their well-being of their call handlers. Only because I kept telling them, do not answer a question I did not ask you. I have told you already. Understand what the City Council's complaints handling procedure is, and I understand what the SPSO's complaint handling procedure is, and what there's a requirement for SPSO to originally take up an investigation. And on one hand, it says on the telephone where I have to go through stage 1, stage 2. Then it also says on the web page for SPSO that I only have to go through the complaints procedure. I already stated to them that the Aberdeen City Council are in breach of the complaints handling procedure because they are refusing to take action to take my stage 1s to stage 2. Therefore, you should be able to take hold of the investigation. Because I am attempting to stand up for my rights. I'm the aggressor? What the hell do you mean? This is the second time now that the SPSO are in cahoots with Aberdeen City Council, just as much as the police are in cahoots with the Aberdeen City Council as well by not charging the City Council worker for breaching my rights and also causing assault. And also the complaints handling procedure for the goddamn police. Because in one of the investigations, there's actually a missing phone call. And then when they imply anything or state any change in behaviour, they only state my change in behaviour, but not the change in behaviour of the call handler. Trying to imply I'm acting in such a certain way where the call handler started to raise their voice first. Trying to portray me as the aggressor. Trying to portray me as the agitator. So they can get away with abusing their policy and ignoring all of our rights. Accountability and transparency. Public bodies must be open and transparent in their decision and provide clear reasons for their action. If they fail to do so, they may be acting unlawfully or unfairly. Example, if the City Council alters documents or withholds information in complaints process, they could be challenged by breaching public law principles. Every single time I've put forward my complaint with Aberdeen City Council or with the SPSO, I have stated to them what particular law, what particular paragraph, and why they broke that particular law or that particular paragraph. They only ever sent me one document and said I was in breach of this and sent the entirety of the document and never explained anything. Other than that, they have explained virtually nothing. They have also not shown me that contract that they apparently have allows them to take my money without my consent and use it to pay for something else that never existed because I had already paid for it. Now it says here as well, challenging public bodies in Scotland. If public body fails to follow these principles, you can complain to the body itself. Escalate to the Scottish Public Service Ombudsman, SPSO, if unresolved, which I have done, but they're just as corrupt as Aberdeen City Council. Seek judicial review in Court of Session. This is illegally challenging against unlawful decision, which I had already tried once with Aberdeen's court system. I am still waiting for a reply, which was sent over 5 months ago.